Okay, it is 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. I call this meeting of the Students Association to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Senator Peterson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to roll call, Chief of Staff Sabo, would you please call the roll?
Senators Barnett, Brink, Daracomport, Dooley, Gibney, Hofer, Jensen, unexcused Campson, unexcused Markley, Peterson, Pulse, unexcused Robbins, Shell, Schmeck, Sierra, Spear, Sternhagen, Tennant, Vasquez, Wessler, Wisser, Diversity Liaison Garcia, Communications Chair Pink, Finance Chair Peterson, Government Affairs Chair Kennecke, Chief of Staff Sabo here, Vice President Bentz, President Peterson, AFA, AISA, BSA, GSA, IRC, LASA, Unified Council, UPC, Dr. Willis.
Yes, as you guys will all notice, Dr. Willis is joining us, so welcome back to the table, Dr. Willis. All right, we'll continue to move down our agenda with adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda tonight? Seeing none, can I entertain a motion to approve? Senator Barnett? All those in favor of adopting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The agenda is adopted. Moving on to approval of the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes tonight? Seeing none, can I entertain a motion to approve? Senator Brink? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye. All opposed? Minutes are approved. We'll continue down our agenda with open forum item A, and we will welcome up Jody Owen from the Wintrow Student Success and Opportunity Center.
All right, well, thank you so much for welcoming me here tonight. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and share information about the Wintrow Center. I did bring some handouts, and I'll just send those around either direction. I will say for those who are joining online, I found a typo on my handout just before I came, and so the printed copies are correct, but if you catch my typo, my apologies for that. So several years ago, we started to strengthen the relationship between the Wintrow Center and Students Association, knowing that we are both entities that really care a lot about students and support student success and have a very common mission in those areas. And so appreciate the opportunity to report out to you each year. Our first connection was, it's been many, many years ago now, we created together some advisor awards. And so we're excited that you present those to advisors across campus each year. So I'm going to just walk through the handout here and share a couple of highlights from the Wintrow Center. You can see, first of all, starting with a list of our programs. We have 9 programs connected to the Wintrow Center. 7 of those are located in Wagner Hall. We moved to Wagner Hall in August of 2023. And then the TRIO programs are located in Larson Commons. So, all right, we have some TRIO folks here in the room, right? Very good, very good. Couple of things that are new this year. We became a certified learning center in 2020, and we just found out that our certification has been renewed. So we are renewed by the International College Learning Center Association, one of 17 learning centers worldwide that has been certified through that organization, and we are now certified through 2029. We are hosting monthly JAX Connect events. Those are sense of belonging events to help students make connections with each other or with faculty and staff across campus. And so we encourage you to attend those as we host those in the spring semester. I think we just had our last one for fall last week. We have accountability groups. We piloted those in the spring and are continuing them this year. Accountability groups are group sessions where students come together for 90 minutes once a week and learn about study strategies, ways to be successful in their classes, set an intention statement of something that they want to accomplish during the accountability group, and then have 60 minutes of dedicated time where they work on that particular task to get things done. So it's built on the concept of body doubling, just helping people to stay motivated, stay connected, and get their work done in a very structured setting. We also have new advising transition guidelines. We have the first year advising center in our office, and with the number of students who are entering SDSU with a large number of credits under their belts, we've set some new guidelines where students who enter with 30 credits already completed may transition to an advisor in their department or their program after one semester rather than waiting for an entire year. We keep them with us in that first semester because we know those students still need that first year experience and to make the connections that they have through the first year advising center, but we also know that it's important to get them connected to their academic program a little more quickly. Some of you may be familiar with Study Stops. It was a program that we used to run, and then after the pandemic had not run Study Stop. We did bring that back this year. It is a late night tutoring program that is run in the library, drop-in tutoring sessions. So we have multiple courses available there and supported through that particular program. And then our last one maybe isn't really a new program, but one of the things that we do is work with students on developing evidence-based study strategies. And one thing that we know is when you teach material to somebody else, you're going to learn it a little bit better. So we now have a program that we call Teach It to a Rabbit. We have these just really cute little rabbits that we bought that we hand out to students when they come in, and we teach them that strategy. Quite often we would tell students to teach a subject to a friend, and they would say, well, my friends don't want to learn about chemistry or biology. So we tell them, teach it to this rabbit then. If you don't have friends who want to learn about the subject, this is somebody that you can teach it to. They're not going anywhere. They're just going to sit there and listen to you the whole time. So that's one of our new strategies that we've incorporated and promoted a bit more with students. I did include in this handout our strategic goals, so you can see there's some of our priorities and the things that we're working on. Our bread and butter really is under that goal 1, the achieving excellence through transformative education. And we know that access, belonging, and self-efficacy are the 3 factors that have proven to make a difference in student success, retention, and degree attainment over time. And so those are the areas that we want to focus on as a Success Center as well. And all of our work is really grounded in those 3 areas. And then finally, I just wanted to share a couple of our points of pride. With our move to Wagner Hall last year, our usage numbers have really increased. So you can see there we had more than 40,000 visits last year during that academic year, which is pretty exciting. That was a 4% increase in visits for supplemental instruction, 6% for the first year advising center, and a 14% increase in visits for our tutoring program. Each year we serve nearly half of all of SDSU's undergraduate students through one of our 9 programs. We also employ more than 90 students every semester. So I'm curious, how many of you have worked with one of the programs in the Wintroad Center in the past? So we've got a couple. Usually we have a pretty strong connection here. So we really appreciate that opportunity to give our students that leadership experience and help them grow through peer educator positions such as peer mentoring, tutors, and SI leaders. Last year, 85.5% of the students we served persisted or graduated prior to this fall semester. And then finally, our training programs for peer mentoring, tutoring, and supplemental instruction have their own certifications. And last year, we certified 72 undergraduate students who worked for those programs. So I wanted to share a couple of those highlights with you tonight. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions for the present? I guess I have one. Could you talk about the move to Wagner and how you feel that's impacted students?
Yeah, so I think in terms of location, the move has been really positive. Again, our numbers have increased greatly since that happened. I know one of the things that we hear from the advisors when we were in the old building, which was kind of on the end of campus, they would have drop-in hours and hardly ever saw anybody during drop-in hours. And now they said their drop-in hours are full pretty much every hour that they have them. So that has certainly increased. Again, the tutoring numbers have really increased as well. And the other thing that I should mention this fall, well, every semester we offer registration help sessions. And those are just times that we have some graduate students who work in our office who are available in the room. And if students have been advised, they've already met with an advisor, picked out their classes for the upcoming semester, those grad students will help them through the registration process so they can get registered for those courses and get help with making adjustments if they need to. In the past, attendance at those has been pretty sporadic. And this semester, we had to add 3 sessions because so many students came to them. And I think the smallest session we had was 8 students in a session. And we had a couple where the grad student who was leading that session had to go get help and bring other people in because there were so many students there. So I think definitely being centrally located has helped us. I think one of our challenges is Wagner Hall is actually kind of a long-term temporary space for us. And there isn't a space for a center in that particular building. And so the long-term goal is that we will have a Wintrode Center again at some point where we actually have space as a center and we can operate more as a center. Right now we are kind of hodgepodge in a few different spaces around the building. So
with all those amazing accolades that definitely merit some commendation from the students in the university, I'm curious, in your opinion, do you think the Success Center is properly staffed to maintain the kind of the caliber of excellence that the center is pushing for?
yeah, I think that's a good question as well. I think we certainly have some staffing challenges, and we've been very fortunate that we have people who work in our office who are really passionate and invest the time in doing the work that needs to be done. But I think when you compare us against our peer institutions, our staffing levels are a little bit lower than what you would see at our peer institutions.
Additional questions? Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll move on to open forum item B, and we will welcome up Andrew Rasmussen and Brianna Duran for our Brookings City Council report.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us here again tonight. Bree was not able to make it tonight. She got held up at work, so just me tonight. Come with just a couple of updates on some of the happenings here at the city. One is we just heard the city charter review process is concluded, and so now the city council and the community of Brookings really as a whole is working through some of those next steps. So the last time the city charter was updated was in 2006. City charter is very similar to the Students Association bylaws or like the Constitution. It's kind of the operating guidelines for the city of Brookings. So an 11-person commission has been working on this since the end of June. They just finished up their recommendations. Primarily a lot of cleanup language, some clarity to add who answers to who and kind of some of the powers of the city council versus the city manager. And then kind of to emphasize some of the city of Brookings values. So those are their proposed changes. Now that's been submitted to the community, so we're kind of in like a commenting period, if you will. The community members can add more suggestions or try to tweak it a little bit, and then that'll come back to the city council for a final vote on whether or not we put that to the ballot of the people. So this spring, after its review, after it comes to city council, that'll be on the spring ballot here in the city of Brookings. The other update I have for you is on winter weather. Last week, the city of Brookings held a study session on kind of how the city has been preparing to handle the winter weather that we're already starting to see. Just a few recommendations and some things to keep in mind. Keep an eye out for parking bans that are issued by the city of Brookings. Failure to move a car when a parking ban is issued will resulting in for sure ticketing and possibly even the towing of your vehicle. So if you want to avoid that, I would encourage you to follow the city of Brookings on your favorite social media platform to stay in tune with that. And also on our website, sign up for notifications. So every time a parking ban is issued, and there's a host of other things you can sign up for, you'll get a notification directly to your phone. The mayor asked me to bring this message to students is that plan ahead. So if you're leaving your car here for Thanksgiving or over the holiday break, you know it's going to snow the next day. Keep an eye out for those parking bans and make sure you have your car in the proper spot. Everyone in compliance with that really helps the city in terms of clearing the snow. They don't have to go around cars, helps them clear the snow quicker, and then it's more safe for everyone when the plows aren't having to dodge cars on the street. That's the only updates I have for you tonight. I'll stand by for any questions.
Any questions for City Council tonight?
Thank you.
Moving on to open forum, item C, we have 2 student organization reports tonight. First, we will welcome up members of the Gender and Sexualities Alliance.
Hello. Hello. I am Rose. I'm the Secretary and Treasurer of the Gender and Sexualities Alliance. Our organization is a place where queer students and community members as well as allies can come together and talk about issues. Every week we typically do like a little history lesson of like an important figure or historical event, something like that. And sometimes we just play games. That's all right. Yeah.
I'm B. I'm ex officio. I'm sure you all know me from the many, many years I've been here. Some of our events that we do every year, we do the drag show, we do karaoke nights, open mic nights. We also did a drag professional makeup class at one point. That got some pretty good attendance. And then, of course, we always do the door for coming out day in the OMAA, and we're always throwing parties and watching movies. We're pretty much just a really fun, welcoming space for those in the LGBTQ community, but also those in the outer Brookings community who want to support us, as well as allies, or just general people who want to be at our meetings. That's really it.
Question. Yes, Nick.
Do you partner with student organizations often?
We partner with a few student organizations. Last year, we partnered with LASA to do a paint and sip, and there was a little short presentation on Frida Kahlo. I know the University Lutheran Center has reached out with us for for a possible partnership, and I do believe we've also done partnerizations with other clubs in the past, but I'm not exactly sure on the details of those events. Yep.
I know we have done a Q&A with the navigators once, like a live panel Q&A. And then, of course, LASA, we do get paired with them every year for the toy drive, which I will be talking about later in my presentation for Exficio.
Other questions for GSA?
So what would you say is the biggest use then of SA funding that you guys use?
Definitely the drag show.
Oh, yeah.
That is our biggest performance we put on every year. We sign so many contracts, we have to do so much paperwork for that, but in the end, I think it is one of, if not our best shows we do, best performances every year. I mean, hundreds of people flock in. I think this year we had, 150 people in attendance?
Something like that.
And like 8 drag performers. And most of them are local, either from the Twin Cities or even from Brookings in general. I know a lot of people love to see the drag show every year. Any other questions?
What are some events you have coming for next year?
Well, the first one I think we're going to be doing is our movie night because we had to cancel that this past semester. So that's probably going to come around sometime early January. We also have our karaoke night, which we usually do every year. And then we're also hoping to do the paint and sip again with LASA. Oh, okay, correct.
And then over spring break, we do also do the clothing drive for the Trevor Project and Marty's Closet down in Sioux Falls. There will be posters up for that come around spring break, so mark your calendars, and when you go home, make sure to grab some clothes.
Any other questions for GSA? Thank you guys so much. All Zoom participants could mute themselves. We'd greatly appreciate it. We will continue moving down open forum, item C, item 2, and we'll welcome up members of Wild Hair Racing.
Okay. So we are Wild Hair Racing, Formula SAE. Our team, a little bit about ourselves. I'm Jake Konieczny. I'm the president.
Carson Gugelsberg, I'm the vice president.
I'm Riley Gale, the treasurer.
A little bit about Wild Hair Racing. We are a competition where every single year we design and then build a formula-style race car from the ground up. Starting in the first semester, we design it, and then the second semester we build it all in-house at SDSU. And then finally, sometime a little bit after finals, we head out to an international competition where we compete against other colleges from around the globe. And then
So our competition is held in Brooklyn, Michigan. This occurs usually in May every year. We go through many different dynamic and stack events. This includes tech inspection, where students present their designs and why they made those decisions. We also drive the vehicle in the dynamic events, which include acceleration, skid pad, autocross, and endurance. Then there is the design presentation, where and students touch on their designs and why they made those decisions. And there's also a business presentation on how we managed our team throughout the year.
Our plans for this season are to finish top 15% out of the 120 teams that come to competition. To do that, we just need to have our car done 2 years prior to, or 2 months prior to what we did last year, to have more testing time to validate some of the decisions we made along the way, along with continuing to go out and recruit and help retain our new members.
our plans for the GAF funding. Currently, Wild Hair Racing, we provide almost all the fees for students to attend competition. So that includes the competition fees themselves, and then the vehicles to get our car, and then the students out to competition. The only fee that is incurred by the students then are the prices for hotel rooms. Currently, our plan for this season is we want to provide 100% of the costs for the students then. We want to make sure, even for the youngest of the members that are on this team, they can go out to competition every single year and experience what our competition is completely about.
So along with bringing all those new students to competition, we have seen a growth of double the retention in students from the previous 2 years.
So looking at past expenses, we've had lower expenses than this upcoming year. We've only been taking one van and one vehicle, one truck, one van and one truck to tow the car out there. We also had slowly increasing registration fees. Now for upcoming expenses this year, we plan on bringing an extra vehicle for our growing student population in our club. That will cost us about $1,500. Along with that, we still have an increasing registration fee for this year.
So the club doesn't just go out and ask for money. We actually do have a bunch of intense fundraising. We go out and we find sponsors that are willing to work with us. A lot of our alumni end up going and working for those employers. But a lot of these sponsors are not monetary. A lot of them provide service or a component that goes into actually manufacturing the car. Along with that, we've also been doing a lot of public outreach all summer long and throughout the fall, going to different events, helping out boost our recruitment, as well as promoting the College of Engineering.
Thank you, guys. Any questions?
How many students are involved in your club?
Currently, we average around 30 active members.
30 attend the national competition?
It often depends on when students will start their internships or their jobs if they are graduating, but typically we look to bring, I believe we're budgeting for 28 people, so a couple of them that won't be able to attend. But yeah, we're hoping to take everybody.
How many hours a week do you find that you guys spend?
So our structured meeting times, we do 4 hours a week, but then on top of that, then oftentimes we're averaging 10.
If not more, during the building of our vehicle.
And then just to touch on those 28 that are going to or planning on going to competition this year, we took 14 last year and 7 the year before that. So again, our team has been doubling year over year.
Further questions for Formula SAE?
Yes, do you have additional fundraising plans to cut that gap between having more people that will go on the trip and wanting to fully fund the go on the trip as well and make sure that they don't pay?
So yeah, one of the big things that we've done this year is we've gone completely revamped our business side, which is including more social media work along with more fundraising work. So they're going to be going out, do a lot more outreach to sponsors directly, and then trying to get some more sponsorship days together to bring more businesses in, allow people to drive some of our trainer cars, have a cookout, stuff like that to help try to boost revenue for our club.
Any other questions for Formula SAE? So much for joining us. Moving on to open forum, item D, public comments. Are there any members of the public that wish to address the Senate tonight? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to reports, starting off with my own short report tonight. Just another reminder that we will have our movie night next Monday, December 2nd, so there will be no Senate meeting. We will have pizza available in the party room at the movie theater from 5:30 to 7. You can show up whenever works for you. You don't have to be there right at 5:30. If you are unable to make it all, please shoot me a text. I'd have emailed you my number and put it in the group me, so please do that so we don't get pizza for you. And then the movies, so if I realize this was unclear, we will all be attending different movies because we were unable to reserve a theater. So in the group me, I sent all the different movies. You can like the one that you would like to attend so we can tell the theater which one. So we have a few people going to Gladiator, a few people going to Wicked, and other ones as well. And so those movies all start around 7 p.m. Some will be like 6:45, some are 7:10, but I'll let you know that prior so you can be sure to be on time for that. And then our last Senate meeting of the semester will be December 9th. And as a reminder, we will be wearing Christmas sweaters. And please be sure to get your legislation in by next Thursday if you would like it on there for our first reading. End of report, Vice President Mintz.
Duties as assigned.
Chief of Staff Sabo.
No report.
Finance Chair Peterson. Government Affairs Chair Kennecke.
I do have a report tonight. Hello, everyone. If you guys could all check your email, I sent you all a survey last Tuesday, I believe, maybe Wednesday. A shed interest form. If you guys could all fill that out super quick right now, that'd be great. If it's not filled out by tomorrow, you'll probably be good. And that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Communications Chair Fink.
Yeah, so the only things out of the ordinary would be fixing apparel. We had a little bit of a run-in with some screen prints and whatnot, so we're getting that all fixed. Those should be worked on coming up here this week. And then scheduling a Senate Comms meeting, just one for the rest of the semester. So please check your emails for that. Fill that out, please. End of report.
Diversity Liaison Garcia.
The only thing I have is I've been contacting the Human Rights Commission in Brookings, and they welcomed me for so I can attend their meetings weekly.
Moving on to ex officio reports, beginning with AFA.
No report.
AISA.
No report.
ESA.
We had a meeting with some students of the College of Journalism, and we went about an interview and spoke. Apart from that, that's none.
GSA.
All right. Only thing I really have to report on is, well, we've got our tree assigned. We gotta get that set up, and then we do have the toy drive with LASA we did meet with them and we looked over the Christmas list that the family sent us and we picked out some things that looked really nice. Oscar did help with that. Thank you, Oscar Garcia, so much. We are looking to go to Walmart to pick up the rest of the gifts. I think December 7th. Is that? I believe so. Yeah, that's when we're going. We're gonna go as a group, probably all cramming into a couple cars. I myself have a big car, so we'll be able to fit everything. And besides planning for our next events for next semester, like our movie night and karaoke night, that's about it. End of report.
IRC.
So as I mentioned before, we're gonna be having our Friendsgiving event on Wednesday. We're gonna be having dishes from all over the world and also a lot of fun games. And it's open to all public. It's gonna be at the Office of Multicultural Affairs at 12 p.m. And another report would be we're gonna be decorating our Christmas tree on the 3rd or the 2nd, I think. And we're gonna be collecting ornaments from international students to put them up.
LASA.
So today, as part of the LASA and GSA collaboration on getting the presents, we went to Walmart to go pick up some ingredients because we're gonna be selling some baked goods and hot apple cider in the Union, I think Monday. So we went and did that today, very exciting. Otherwise, nothing else to report. Thank you.
Unified Council.
Neither of our new people could be here today.
Thank you. Yes, so is this still your last meeting, Lena?
No, we'll be at the next.
Oh, well, I was gonna say thank you, but we look forward to seeing you on December 9th. Okay, well, still, thank you so much for all that you've done this year. We'll go to UPC.
Yeah, our board met this past Sunday for our allocation meeting for our spring of 2025 events. And so we passed roughly like 12 events for the next semester. So be on the lookout for when we start tabling and handing out magnets, telling you all the dates and all of the fun events that we have planned. End of report.
All right, thank you, ex officios. We'll move on to advisory reports. Dr. Willis.
Yes, it's good to be back with you for your second to last meeting of the semester. Sorry I have been out most of the semester, but it is good to be back. We are doing, from a leadership perspective, we are doing a lot of prep right now for legislative session, just kind of keeping our ears to the ground to understand what the topics are, what areas we may need to develop responses for, and how we need to engage with the legislature. Of course, you guys will be doing Shed Days, which is always a fun event and a great opportunity for you to advocate in peer with our area legislators for what you're interested in. When you do get back from Thanksgiving break, the governor's budget address is on December 3rd at 1 p.m. So it's the Tuesday after you return at 1 p.m. If you'd like to listen to that, that is where she will establish budget priorities for the legislative session that will be considered by appropriations and the legislature. And so if you are available at 1 p.m. to listen to that, I'd encourage you to do that. You can find a link to listen to the governor's budget address. If you go to just the governor's website, typically there's a link on there on that day. You can just click on it and listen either to the audio, or you can, I believe, also watch it on SDPB, and they'll have a link for that as well. So I would encourage you to listen to that. I don't know if they have a recording or not, but you'll see it on the news and things like that as well following the budget address. But typically, they will talk about any higher education priorities that they might include this year in their planning. So just something to be aware of. And then the last piece that I'll report on is that Jack's Cupboard did a really great program with Thanksgiving meals a week ago Monday. They served approximately 100 students with Thanksgiving meals. They had turkey and stuffing and potatoes and carrots and all sorts of different things. So there's fresh produce as well as little turkeys and things like that. So really great event. This is the first year we've done that, and it was very successful. A lot of learning occurred as well, so we know how to prepare a little bit better even next year, but a really great outreach program for Jack's Cupboard. With that, I look forward to being here for your next meeting as well, and spring semester, we'll just kind of wait and see. I've got some health things that I know Trinity shared with you with potential kidney cancer, and we're waiting to see if Mayo will pick it up or not and give us some different alternatives for surgery. Either way, I will have surgery, but it sounds like it will only be 2 weeks out of the office instead of 6 weeks, which is exciting. And then that should take care of this most recent health issue that I'm working through. Still maintaining positive attitude, and we'll get through this one as well. But appreciate all the care and support as I've been out most of this semester with a couple of procedures related to my breast cancer diagnosis a little over a year ago. So we keep going, and I just remind everyone, be thankful for every day and live life to its fullest, because you never know what you're going to be facing. And so do great things each and every day. So with that, end of report. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Willis. We'll move on to committee reports. Are there any committees that would like to report out tonight? Senator Sternhagen.
The IT committee met this last week and spent about an hour discussing the HR policies surrounding remote work. So really nothing all that interesting for students.
Senator Tennant.
The Integrated Strategic Communications Committee met last week. There was also a meeting back in September, but you were not a part of that one, so I was kind of getting caught up from that. From that, there was an Excel spreadsheet created by HR that lists methods of communication, as well as the positives and some of the challenges that come with that. Stuff that is usually sent out primarily to SUSU employees. With that, they talked about potentially using less emails as emails get lost easily. With that, they talked about creating a digital newsletter instead. But the question is how often and when it needs to be sent out has to be answered first. And then creating our own communication space was brought up as kind of like a clearinghouse. But they're currently using a HubSpot as their main source of communication. Overall, the biggest concern is that they need to get an inventory of what communication platforms are being used by faculty the most before going forward with what I had talked about earlier.
Other committees I would like to report out tonight. Senator Brink.
Yeah, the Parking and Traffic Committee met again last Thursday. A couple of things were discussed. There was a lot more discussion surrounding the protocols for having a second level appeal in the summer, where some members of the committee need to be there to hear the appeal in person. Just questions about whether or not students need to come back to sit on that appeal committee, etc. We are discussing amending the bylaws to accommodate that. And then there was some more discussion involving visitor parking, specifically at places like the Meat Lab where there's a customer trying to purchase a good. That's kind of what that appeal we just had involved, the one that got rescheduled 3 times. And then we discussed how parking could continue to help educate freshmen, better incoming freshmen, and seeing if there's a way we could integrate more information on that to NSO or Thumpstart or something like that, just to get freshmen more familiar with their parking options. And then the last thing we got into was Lot 110, which is the one over by Raven, and there are a multitude of things that they're discussing on what to do with that one. So that one's up in the air right now. Yeah, end of report.
Other committees I'd like to report out tonight. Communications Chair Fink.
So last Wednesday, I attended a University Wellbeing Advisory Committee meeting. There's a lot of good discussion in that meeting. It mainly focused on mental and physical health, different resources for students there, like different counseling programs, some flu shot opportunities that will be happening on campus. Different mental health programs is a really big thing in that meeting. Other than that, they discussed UWill updates, the online counseling for students. So any problems with that have been resolved. We also discussed Title IX and some possible collaboration with the Students Association for getting Title IX out to the students further. End of report.
Other committees I'd like to report out tonight? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions for any of the reports tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to unfinished business. Item A, Amendment 24-2-A. Chief of Staff Sabo, would you please introduce this item?
Amendment 24-2-A. Title of amendment reads, an amendment to the bylaws to reallocate a senator seat to the Van D. and Barbara B. Fishback Honors College. Prime sponsor, Senator Shell. Sponsors include Senators Dooley, Derek Hanford, Pulse, Gibney, and Shemek.
Would anyone request that this item be read in full? Seeing none, can I entertain a motion to approve? Senator Shell.
So moved.
Senator Shell, first right to debate.
Thank you. So as I introduced last week, this amendment is really to give the representation to the Honors College that it has earned and deserved, and at that to be a senator's seat. Now, the Honors College comprises up to 9% of our student corporation at any given time. And while there may be some individuals on current Senate right now that are in Honors College, there's none that are truly speaking for the Honors College with them in the first mind or as an active member in the Honors College. Now, for this amendment in general, it came from the notion that historically, the graduate school seats have been left open. In the last 5 years, there's been a one seat filled once of their 2 seats they get every year. Now, after speaking with many of you, I realized that as we aspire to become an R1 university, we're a higher level graduate school. I know this may be a bit of a hard point, and I'm willing to work with perhaps instead of reallocating, perhaps generating a new seat first so that we keep those positions for graduate schools and instead create new seats as well. But I'm willing to debate and compromise as necessary as we speak.
Further discussion on this amendment? Senator Sternhagen.
So I thought I'd just give an old man's perspective. I've been on the Senate since Andrew Rasmussen, the city councilor who came in earlier, was the president of the Students Association. And so in that time, I've seen several large amendments go through, and I've been a part of the process for many of those amendments. I'd like to say reallocating Senate seats is a pretty big change, and it generally should not be taken lightly. In the past, when we've made large amendments that would significantly change the size and function of the Senate, we spent several months holding committee meetings on the changes and carefully analyzing the benefits and drawbacks of making that given change. A good case in point, still in recent memory, would be the diversity chair, which took several months of committee meetings, public discussion, and a few dirty political scandals to finally be approved. And while I see the value in this amendment, I don't think we've quite done enough research, analysis, and discussion to make this kind of amendment just yet. So as such, I will be voting no on the amendment tonight, and I would encourage those who are enthusiastic about this issue to get a subcommittee together and raise the issue again after some more research and analysis and discussion has been performed.
Further discussion on this amendment? Senator Peterson.
My opposition to this amendment is pretty significant. Although I appreciate the passion and the initiative of those senators who brought forth this amendment, it has several flaws that would create some pretty severe consequences if it were to pass. So I'm going to begin at the end of the amendment. It states that the graduate school and Van D. and Barbara B. Fishback Honors College will both be allocated one senatorial seat regardless of corporation membership percentage. So currently, the graduate school is allocated 3 seats. Although the seats are not filled on our current Senate, graduate school representation should be prioritized. As Vice President Bentz explained at an earlier meeting, it is our duty to represent the corporation, which includes all members of the student body. And with our university's progression toward an R1 status, we will be increasing the number of graduate students at SDSU, and cutting the representation of a growing population that needs a voice at this table is just not in the best interests of the Students Association, particularly when one of the seats is going to a population that is already represented at this table.
Further discussion on this amendment? Senator Brink.
Yeah, I would mainly echo a lot of the sentiments that Senator Sternhagen brought up. I think that there is some merit in the idea behind this amendment, but just in the interest of everyone's time, I do sort of see it as something that could use some further development behind the scenes before we, spend a bunch of time hacking out amendments to the amendment on the floor. I think it would be maybe worth tabling and like Grant said, possibly putting together a committee or just spending some more time discussing and bringing something to the floor that we're all more eager to vote for. So.
Further discussion, Senator Markley.
Yeah, first of all, thank you to Senator Shell and everyone else for putting work on this. And I understand that on the surface level, this amendment does seem to open doors for our very own honors college. But just like with any new addition to our Senate body and our Constitution, we need to thoroughly think about this and present a piece of legislation that acts as a blueprint rather than a rough idea on paper. And so therefore, I think I personally do have maybe one or two questions that we could discuss on the Senate floor if this is something we want to take. The first question being, what are going to be the logistics of students voting, students running? And this will significantly also impact our own election committee that I personally, as someone who has been a part of that and who has helped run that, I don't think we need to put this on the backs of people who are already running a really stressful election. That and the fact that I understand, as you said, Senator Shell, that this is about representation, but I also do think we have senator seats like our very own at-large seats that are able to do that. If you're an honors student in an at-large seat, you are still able to represent the honors college. And so I'm not quite sure what the whole point of representation is, and I know you touched on it, but as your fifth whereas clause states in this amendment, that student association senators, 40% of us are already representing that, plus over 50% of the executive team. So I just want to understand logistically what this aims to do if we already do have representation. Because like you said, it's not specifically targeted, but that's the point of having seats like our at-large seats and having students go into committees and subcommittees. So those are the things I'm going to open up on the floor.
Senator Dooley.
I'm an at-large and I'm also a part of Honors College, but to be honest, when I am voting, when I'm thinking about my votes, I'm not thinking about the Honors College because I'm not super involved in the Honors College. It's more just a distinction for me. It's how I take classes and in order to be in like smaller class sizes and things like that. And I think that while I get what you're saying, how we have representation, a lot of us are kind of like me where we vote thinking about our colleges, we vote thinking about our day-to-day experiences, and honors isn't likely a big part of that. And they are a huge part of our university. So the fact that we think like that might be a sign that we need to give them some more representation because oftentimes that's not what we're thinking about. We might not be thinking about honors when we're talking about classes and everything like that. So in order to give them a spotlight because they've been doing a lot of work, they're a huge part of our university. They are technically a college because you can have a minor, they have a lot of different classes that you can take. And so I think it's important that we encourage this and encourage higher thinking, we encourage being a part of Honors College because that's a step towards being an R1 university.
Further discussion on the amendment. Senator Gibney.
Try to keep this brief. A few points that we touched on tonight, and I appreciate the mental efforts of the senators that spoke before me. Number one, we have de facto representation of the Honors College, not de jure. I'm a member of the Honors College. I think the number was 40% of people around this table. Also a member of Greek Life. We have other Greek Life senators. There's no certification that the Honors College will always have representation. Any number of senators can be elected from any college and any combination of at-large. That does not guarantee the Honors College. The Honors College, I'm emphasizing those words on purpose because every dean at this academic institution has a senator that sits on the Senate. When we're talking about logistics, name a student organization that is more on top of their academics, plus the way they operate. You'll have to excuse me, my throat is a little sore tonight. On top of their academics and their operation, that if we told them they had a seat, they would get a student to fill that seat as soon as possible. I think the Honors College can do that. When we're talking about putting this back into a committee, when this was brought to me, I was a little upset because I hadn't thought of it before. Having underused graduate seats, which yes, we're moving towards Carnegie status, R1, But it's fairly clear that graduate students either don't care about student government. That wasn't or, but I think that's a statement that I'm making because they're not here. No one's dying to get in the door. And graduate representation, though it's inexistent now, the opportunity for it is still not limited. When we're talking about underused seats, a college that is engaged, bureaucracy that I do not think is needed, and a student organization that I think deserves de jure representation, I would strongly urge everyone at this table to vote yes for this.
Further discussion, Finance Chair Peterson.
Yeah, so I will say that I am opposed to this amendment. In its current form, first of all, one thing to note is that when the line of our current bylaws that no college shall be apportioned less than 3 senators, if that were to be struck from our current bylaws, it would cut our Senate seats. Some of the colleges that are represented around this table would have fewer senator representatives than they do now. The way that that's apportioned throughout the election would significantly cut our Senate to, I believe, 22 seats as it stands. And then my other concern is that there is some inaccurate information in this amendment. So as we've heard that typically there's some sort of task force or committee that goes and finds a lot of historical data and whatnot for these amendments. It is just evident to me that that was not necessarily done, as the line that states that in the last 5 years there has only been 1 honor senator. The information that I have found with just a few minutes of digging, I have found 5 graduate senators in the last 5 years, and just finding that error just leads me to believe that there may be more errors that may not have been thoroughly thought through. And so I am concerned that this is a little bit rushed and that things weren't ironed out as they should have been.
Further discussion on this amendment, Senator Markley.
This could be either to our steering committee or Senator or Vice President Willis. What would this look like on the ballot for a general election? Because I know, first of all, verifying student IDs are already a big problem that thankfully Senator VP Willis and her office somewhat overlooks. And how will this just look for the steering committee when it is also going to be run through people who are either seniors or, our very own president, and people that shouldn't need, in my opinion, don't need to add something to it when we don't have the logistics all set up?
You want to answer that, Vice President Willis?
So we work with IT to develop the ballot, and the ballot goes out. It's kind of a smart form that identifies what college you're in, and you the ability to vote based on your academic major. I am going to be honest, I'm not quite certain exactly how we would accomplish voting for this. I'm not saying it's not possible, because technology can do a lot of different things. With our current system that we use for voting, we can't even believe students can vote twice if they're in 2 different colleges. So I mean, there are already some challenges that we haven't found solutions for. And so this one would create some logistical challenges. And like I said, I'm not quite sure. I'm not saying that it can't happen. We can find solutions if the Senate desires to move this direction. We just haven't approached IT to talk through what does this look like, and do we need to use a different platform for voting potentially that would allow for not only this, but maybe some other enhancements. So I can't really answer that, but I know that right now we would not have a solution for it. That's not to say that we couldn't find one.
Further discussion. Government Affairs Chair Kennedy.
Mr. Peterson, do you have a list of the 5? Because I've been here since September of 2022, and there's not, to my knowledge, ever been a graduate senator in that time. And I've also only ever heard of one person ever have interest in it, and they did not follow through on it. Yeah, I was just wondering if you have that list.
Finance Chair Peterson.
Yeah, so in the 2021 to 2022 term, there were 2 graduate Senate seats filled. In the 2020 to 2021 term, there was 1 graduate Senate seat filled. And then 2019 to 2020, there were 2 filled.
Further discussion, Senator Brink.
Where did you find that information, just for the records or the rules?
Yeah, so that is in our Google Drive, which is limited to exec members. So I'm not saying that that's necessarily super public information. However, my concern is that it could have been brought up to an exec member and that we could have found that historical data. I'm sure it can be found elsewhere as well.
Senator Gibney.
The motion, or not the motion, the conversation had was that this resolution had holes in it due to the lack of that information, which was private. If a senator has to access secret information from the executive board to make legislation, that's not.
Okay, I don't see this as a point of order. Thank you for your discussion. However, this is a point that is germane to the amendment, so I will allow this discussion. Senator Peterson, you may finish your discussion.
I'm not sure where this information is public. I'm sure it is somewhere. However, in the past, like I've said, people typically will come and create some sort of a task force. There are 7 members of us up here that have access to that drive that could have all found that information, and simply none of us were asked.
Senator Brink.
I guess I don't know if it's gonna be of great productivity or use to us to discuss what work has been done or what work could have been done. I think what we've discovered tonight is that while there's a lot of enthusiasm for the idea behind this amendment, we're poking a lot of holes in it. I don't think I'm going to be comfortable voting on it in its present state, and I think we've raised a couple too many questions to do any amending on the floor. So I think it would be prudent for us to get a motion going if possible.
We'll throw out that if you would like to end debate and take this straight to a vote, we can move previous question. I'm not enticing you to have to do that. I'm laying that out as an option.
I'm usually not so bold as that.
Okay.
Some of the people here.
Okay. Further discussion. Vice President Benz.
I would actually encourage further discussion right now. I think this is important now that it's on the floor and that we're all here. I would encourage maybe some more discussion on possible amendments we could make to the current motion as is written right now. I think that is prudent to the betterment of the Senate right now to continue discussing at this moment. That's my personal opinion though.
Senator Shell.
Thank you. First off, thank you for everybody for their perspectives. Certainly, everything was taken into notion, those for and against, and I want to make sure that we find a compromise for everybody. Now, as far as these amendments, such as Vice President Benz discussed, like I mentioned before, instead of the reallocation, I would certainly be excited to instead create seats. And then instead of looking at no less than 3 senators, I was not under the impression when I asked some members of the executive committee that there were 3 positions for the graduate school. I was notified of 2, and that's in bylaws. I didn't see any difference either. As for like they had 3 or 2. So that's where my point of confusion came for that, because I didn't want to have a bylaw that kind of went back on itself by saying 3 versus 2 versus 1, and that's why that line is in there, not to imply that school should, or any graduate or college should have less than 3. Now, the point raised by Finance Chair Peterson for that information certainly should have delved deeper into that when I asked a few members of the executive committee in their previous history that they knew of. That's all that I had heard as well, and that's why that information was in there. I apologize for that oversight. But as I say forward, I am still extremely enthusiastic about this idea, and I realize that changes will have to be made.
Further discussion on the amendment. Senator Barnett.
Make a motion to amend it to allocate the Honors College a seat.
How would you like that worded?
May I yield my time to Senator Dooley?
Senator Dooley.
Essentially what we're looking to do is to make it so that it states that, to basically take out the part where it strikes no college should be apportioned less than 3 senators, to bring that back, but then to also kind of make like a alteration to that, to say except for the graduate school and the Van D and Barbara B. Fishback Honors College. The reason that we would like to do this is because we essentially don't think that.
Sorry, can we get that amendment in writing real quick for our chief of staff? Thank you.
Essentially, don't strike that part there. Is that fine?
Yeah.
Unstrike the strike
Yeah.
is what I would like to do.
Basically.
Sorry. So that what we're trying to do is we don't want to make it so that.
Stop talking. Point of order, no. Point of order, we will not have any rude
It's
any
fine,
kind of
it's fine,
discussion
it's
like
fine,
that,
I'm not
absolutely
being-
not.
Okay, now I'm good.
Yes, you may proceed with your discussion, Senator Dooley.
Essentially what I'm hoping that this does is I understand that some people don't want too much overrepresentation. I also understand that some people might be wary about the fact that Honors College maybe couldn't fill seats, and I understand that we don't want to add a ton of seats. I totally get that, but I also think that they deserve representation, which is what we're trying to do here. And I also think that that line that Matthew might have moved to strike, he didn't understand what implications it could have for essentially like the College of Natural Science, which he represents and would not want to hinder. So hopefully this change can remedy a lot of things that would have happened there. Yeah, thank you.
All right, we are now discussing this amendment to the amendment. Is there further discussion? Senator Barnett.
So obviously I'm a member of the Honors College. I'm very passionate about it. I've had the great opportunity to work with amazing professors and meet amazing people through it. However, I am a senator for the College of Nursing, and as Senator Shell and Senator Gibney spoke there, the Honors College students they're amazing people. They're gonna fill this spot, they're gonna work. And I think their voice is very necessary to our Senate. I want the grad students to have a seat at this table. They need to have a seat at this table. But it's hard, right, when we've had these seats available forever, right, and no one's here. And it's kind of like, I guess the question that's pondering in my head is like, if this is such a push that like nothing can happen to the graduate students, I'm kind of like, well, why aren't they here? Like, where's their voice, like, in public comments? Because I'm genuinely interested. Like, I want that perspective. I want to hear. I think this is a really good thing. What was I gonna say? I'm so sorry. I just think moving forward, these are the people who want to implement change at the university. They're gonna be the ones with their hands in the dirt, moving this university forward. They care. And I really think this is important, and I would encourage you to vote yes.
Chief of Staff Sabo.
Yeah, I think that I like this amendment. I think that this is a good step in the right direction. I will say, Senator Barnett, although maybe we don't have graduate students around the table right now, that doesn't mean that they deserve any less representation. We also don't have our full representation for nursing. We don't have pharmacy right now. That doesn't mean that we deserve less representation. It just means that they might be not here.
Senator Dooley.
Kind of just to wrap up this whole thing, I think one thing that we can really look at is how many people in the graduate school voted in the election. 0. Not a single graduate student voted in our past election. If they wanted a voice.
Can I have a clarification here? So the reason it said 0 voted in our election is because we didn't have any senators running, so we were unable to track. So I just wanted to put that correction for you. You may continue your discussion.
Yeah, and I totally get that that might be misrepresented by if they voted for president or vice president, but also I think that's kind of really important to note because we haven't seen the representation. We're not getting rid of their voice at all. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to reallocate voices around the university to places that we think are gonna make a difference, people who we feel like need to be heard. Also, and I could be wrong, could graduate students not run under their college as well?
I'm not sure, Vice President Willis. They could, yes.
So even if we only had given them one seat, there's always that option as well.
Further discussion, Finance Chair Peterson.
I guess I just have a clarification question point. So in the point B, are we amending it so that it's no college shall be apportioned less than 3 senators with the exception of the Honors College as well as the graduate school? And then also up in section 1, there would need to be some updates as well. It says the Senate shall be a single body consisting of the representatives elected or appointed from each of the 7 colleges and the graduate school within the university.
Oh, Senator Syrup.
Yeah, so without the, well, I guess,
You'd have to add in there for the honors college as well. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be 8 with the honors college in there.
Would someone like to answer that clarification before we continue with the debate? Senator Shell.
Right, so the reason that wasn't changed, because it said colleges and the graduate school, so there's 7 colleges and then the graduate school. So it would have to be rechanged to 8.
Senator Peterson.
I would like to say that while the graduate senators can run in their own college, they're still largely disconnected from the rest of campus because of their schedules. They're connected to less students. It's harder for them to gain signatures and win elections. And so the arrangement that we have right now for the graduate school allows them equal opportunity for representation, and they have less signatures required to gain a seat on Senate simply due to their schedules and because it is more difficult for them because I don't see a lot of graduate students around campus, you know? And so I would just like to say that their lack of connection with undergraduate constituents would make them inadequate representatives of their constituents. Therefore, it's illogical for them to be elected in their colleges. And instead, they should be elected to represent their school, which is easier for them and it makes more sense in the way that we have things set up.
Vice President Willis.
Point of clarification, graduate students cannot run in their college under Section 4 eligibility. Item B, it does state senatorial candidates who are enrolled in the graduate school or are graduating seniors who prove that they have applied or will be attending graduate school at the university in the fall semester must campaign under the graduate school. They cannot run as a college member, they have to run in the graduate school.
Thank you. Senator Sternhagen. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to get to people who haven't discussed yet, so that's my rationale.
Yeah, I do have another point of clarification. So while we've been having this discussion about the one graduate senator, I personally remembered 2 of them. And so I went and used the Wayback Machine to look at the Students' Association page of all the senators. I actually have the names for both of those senators and 2 from the 2019-2020 term, which would be in this time frame that we're talking about here. So in that time period, there have been 4 graduate senators, them being Ravi, I'm not going to say the last name, Nick Shirley, Sumit Kumar Ghosh, and Kyle Shapcott. And of those, I knew 2 of them.
Thank you. Senator Robbins.
So with this amendment, I really like the idea of looking to grow our Senate, but I guess what confuses me is why we are trying to grow when we already don't have some of our seats filled. I looked at our website and cafes isn't full, the College of Pharmacy, College of Education, just to name a few. I don't know how many seats are like on all the colleges, but that's just what I noticed. And that's my biggest thing with this amendment.
Chief of Staff Sabo.
I'd like to call previous question. I think that we should vote on this amendment to the amendment before we continue discussion on the entire.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we have previous question. This means. You have a point of order?
Yeah, kind of. If you call previous question and previous question passes, you vote on the amendment to the amendment, and then you also vote on the amendment itself.
Correct, yes, I was just going to explain that. So previous question requires a 2/3 vote to pass, so we'll do it by hand raise. And if that passes, then we will vote on the amendment to the amendment. Does anyone need further clarification? Yes, Senator Brink.
She just said then we also have to vote on the entire amendment directly afterwards?
Okay.
No, point of order, I don't. Previous question is just for the amendment.
Okay, well, we'll just vote on the amendment to the amendment. So, but first we have to vote on previous question on whether we'd like to. So all those in favor of previous question, please signify by raising your hand. Okay, please put your hands down. All opposed? All right, previous question passes. We will take this amendment to the amendment to a voice vote. All those in favor of the amendment to the amendment with the blue wording on the screen, please signify by saying aye. All opposed?
No.
Nay.
Okay, we're going to take that to a counted vote. All those in favor of the amendment to the amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed, please stick out your hands. By a vote of 11 to 10, the amendment passes. We'll be back on discussion of the main motion as it now reads on the screen. Does anyone have further discussion on this motion? Senator Brink.
I'd like to say that I think that the entire text of the way that this amendment was written is trying to draw an equivalency between the graduate school and the honors college, like section 4, the subsection C, it's kind of equating them together. And so honestly, I think that even if we wanted to get this done, it would just have to be written completely differently. I don't see it getting to a stage tonight where I'd feel comfortable voting in favor of it. Not that I don't like the idea, but I just think the entire thing needs to be reworked.
Senator Hofer.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, that section B and C, and I'm a little bit confused on what would happen with the graduate school then, because we've just amended it and said no college shall be apportioned less than 3 senators with the exception of the honors college, but then right after that we say the graduate school and honors college will both be allocated 1 senatorial seat. So will the graduate school have 3 seats or 1 seat? We're not being very clear here. As a matter of fact, we're directly contradicting each other within B and C. I think we need to get that figured out. Sorry.
Apologies. Thank you, Senator Hofer. Senator Wisser.
I think it's important if the graduate school is a problem and getting seats on our Senate is an issue and a point of contention. I think it's important that we designate time for solving that issue beforehand, because it seems that this issue is also being brought up in this amendment, and I think it would be good to figure that out before bringing this on the floor. And figuring out how we can ensure that we have those voices heard instead of taking them away. Like Senator Brink said, it looks like we're kind of equating the two when really this is like graduate school is also a problem that we really need to fix and solve, because I do believe that their voice should be heard. And I think that if we're going to bring up another issue within this amendment and within this issue, then that is the primary focus of what we should focus on. We should work on figuring out what to do with the graduate school, and if you want to take away seats, I think that should be put into a different legislation instead of being put into this one.
Further discussion. Senator Peterson.
So yeah, I do like the idea of growing our Senate, but also as a few previous speakers have said, I feel like this was kind of rushed. It wasn't looked at as it should have been. And this is my first year on Senate, but I know that in the past, task force have been formed to work on amendments like this. And as Senator Sturtenhagen said, it takes a long time for a lot of the other amendments that have gone on the floor in Senate. They have been spent months on working on those. So I think it would be a good idea to form a task force, look into this more, maybe look at making it an ex officio spot first, because see how that works. If we like that, and then in the future, we could look into making it a separate seat on Senate. I just think that this was really rushed, and there may be some more holes that we find. We've only talked about a few of them tonight, but who knows how many more there are. And I think it just needs to be looked at a lot further than it has been.
Senator Markley.
If this is something that we truly do want to keep, then I also highly recommend if you're open to tabling it. Senator Sternhagen and I have been here for tablings of resolutions, amendments, and even constitution. So if this is something you really, really want, I'd say that is also an option. Otherwise, like I said, I don't think right now this is a blueprint. Rather, it's just a rough idea. So I would not feel comfortable voting for it.
Further discussion on the amendment. Yes.
What exactly would tabling look like? Like, what would be the exact procedure to get it tabled in a way that we could look at it again soon? Like, does there need to be a time frame tonight, or?
Tabling if something remains on the table for longer than 2 weeks, so within our next 2 meetings, so either December 9th or January 13th. If it was not taken off the table, it would die.
So to follow that up, I don't know if tabling is the right call, because what I'm hearing is that I think people would feel more comfortable having a subcommittee formed about this and really scrutinizing it in longer than the 2 weeks we would have. I know that there's a break in between there, but none of us are gonna wanna be looking at this during that time. So I don't know if tabling is gonna be the move, but I'm open to that.
I'll treat this like a parliamentary inquiry. So I don't know, Vice President Willis, would you like to outline some other options or?
Yeah, another option would be that you can refer to committee. And so you can refer to a committee or you can refer to a task force that this body would create. Those are two options that you could do in lieu of tabling. You can also table to a specific date. And so if you didn't want to wait those two meetings, or if you wanted longer than the two meetings, you could table to a specific date in the future is what I
We could
understand.
postpone to a certain meeting. Postpone definitely, yeah. Yes, we could postpone definitely to a future meeting that's longer than 2 weeks away. We could postpone indefinitely, which would kill the current motion, but wouldn't stop anything from being brought forward in the future. And we could also refer to a committee or task force, like Vice President Willis said. Senator Shemmick.
Question, if we're referring it to a committee and we don't currently have a committee in place, how do we go about assigning people to that committee?
You can determine how that committee is by the person making that motion. So for the parliamentary pro nerds in the room, for example, you might say you move to refer it to a committee. It could be appointed by the chair, could be appointed by the Senate, could be however that motion is chosen to be worded.
Thank you.
Yeah. Chief of Staff Sabo.
I move to postpone indefinitely. Second.
All right, the motion to postpone indefinitely has been made. Passing this would kill the motion. This motion is debatable. So Chief of Staff Sabo for straight to debate.
Yeah, I think that having honors representation is important. I don't know that with the state that the amendment and our conversation has been in tonight, that we should vote on it tonight. I think that we should maybe take some time, more time than 2 weeks even, to have discussion and go over what is laid out right now and nitpick it as much as we can. Make sure that if we are putting something into our bylaws, that it is something that we truly all believe in and know that we created it correctly.
So for further clarification again on this parliamentary wise, this would kill the motion. So it would essentially in essence fail it. Again, it could be re-brought up as new legislation. Senator Spear.
I do personally agree with Chief of Staff Sabo. I feel like as I'm a freshman, obviously, fresh to the this feels like a bigger issue than what we can, I feel like this is kind of tense right now, and I just feel like as the Senate, just like Senator Shell said, a compromise is really important, and I feel like referring this to a committee or just spending a little bit more time on it as a Senate, and kind of just taking away all that questions, especially about the graduate college. And I think obviously like we have a lot of ideas here that need to be worked on. And I also agree as a senator in honors college, I feel like they do need a voice. I just think that right now, just seeing at it kind of bigger view, I just feel like right now it's a little tense.
Senator Sternhagen.
I like the general idea of this motion. I would maybe prefer the referring to a committee over postpone indefinitely. I think if we refer it to a specific committee and appoint someone to put that committee together, then we can more guarantee that work is actually going to get made on this.
Senator Shell.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for all three of you for voicing much the same things I am, but I really want to point out what Senator Sternhagen just said. I want to make sure that work gets done on this, and if we're postponing indefinitely, it leaves a little wiggle room. I want to be able to make some leeway on this, and that's why I believe referring it to a task force, as Senator Sternhagen just mentioned, would be much more beneficial and effective for this task.
Senator Peterson.
I am in favor to postpone it indefinitely just because, as President Peterson said, it doesn't mean that it can't be brought up later. I think that what we have right now is just kind of, like I said earlier, it's kind of rushed. And so if we were to postpone it indefinitely, it could be rewritten so that it's not there aren't as many holes in it as like what we have talked about tonight. And it can be brought up in a meeting any other time as a new legislation that has been looked at more. And just because we postpone it indefinitely doesn't mean it's not going to be looked at. I understand why we would rather maybe refer it, but I think that postponing it indefinitely, it could still be looked at further and more information could be gathered to actually come up with something a little bit more detailed and not with less holes in it.
Senator Hofer.
I would make a counter motion to refer to a committee of the Senate's choosing, if that's allowed. I've seen it happen in the state legislature. I don't know if that's
Let's vote on the motion to postpone indefinitely, and then we can make that motion. Chief of Staff Sabo.
Yeah, the reason that I was for postponing indefinitely is because I know that you won't let this die, and I know you're gonna keep working on it, as I think you should, which is why I think, even if we don't refer it to a committee, I think that postponing indefinitely is still appropriate.
Vice President Benz.
Actually in favor of what Senator Sternhagen proposed with instead referring to this to a committee. I think this ensures that work will be done on the amendment to make sure that it is worded correctly, or to maybe even ensure that an amendment to the bylaws is still valid. Nothing would necessarily have to come out of that committee that is established. But I think as we've seen here tonight, I think a lot of questions still remain regarding the amendment itself, and making sure that there is a forum available to have those questions asked and answered in the form of a committee, I believe is the best path forward for this particular amendment.
Any further discussion on the motion to postpone indefinitely? Senator Shemmick.
I would urge everyone to vote against postponing indefinitely. I think forming a task force, so people with both sides of the opinion would kind of be on that, so you wouldn't just have it in Senator Shell's hand and kind of the people that were in favor of it, just trying to rework it. I think it would be a lot more beneficial to have a committee where people could discuss and say what they're for, what they're against, kind of try to piece that together into kind of reworking the amendment to something that we can all vote for. I just think it'd be a lot more productive with our time to refer to a committee. Not sure what kind of committee, if we want to appoint ourselves or have President Peterson appoint the people for it, but I think it would just be more beneficial than just postponing indefinitely.
Senator Shell.
Thank you. Yeah, and so to rehash it all together, I strongly believe that we should not postpone it indefinitely, but rather set up a committee by the Senate, because this is truly for the Senate, and we should appoint ourselves that gets all the different opinions on this perspective for this matter. And so that's why a committee appointed by the Senate of each, each side, each perspective coming through would be much more beneficial than postponing indefinitely.
Further discussion on the motion to postpone indefinitely? Senator Gibney.
I think regardless if it gets postponed indefinitely or referred to a committee, work will be done. If you were to ask Mr. Zammert or myself or anyone else in the armed services, a very large component of the way that the military runs is accountability. I think referring it to a committee ensures that this keeps getting brought forward, because if I had a clicker tonight, the amount of times I heard around the table, I like this, but I think I would have run out of digits. So I think referring to the committee is the correct choice here.
Further discussion on the motion to postpone indefinitely? Senator Dooley.
One thing that I'll say quickly, if we do refer to a committee, which I'm in favor of, I think that it also benefits people who are not comfortable voting yes for this, because then you guys get a voice. Because right now, it's basically just been Senator Shell working really hard on this amendment, trying to ask people things, and that kind of doesn't lead everywhere because we know we're all busy. You know what I mean? So if we actually give Senator Shell and his amendment time, and we set up a committee and we give it what it should have had in the beginning, I think that this can go a lot farther than if we just postpone indefinitely. And maybe that's just my opinion.
Finance Chair Peterson.
I guess my only thing to say is if we're discussing against postponing indefinitely because we'd rather have a committee, just for some clarification, per Robert's Rules of Orders, the ways that a committee can be appointed is by the chair, nomination by the chair with an election via voice vote, appointment by motion, floor nominations, an election, or an election by ballot. So there are some more technical terms and things that come with appointing a committee, just so that everyone is aware.
I guess I will provide some clarification off of that. If we do pass the motion to postpone indefinitely, we also still can form a task force. I have the power to appoint task force as needed too. Obviously, we can still refer to a committee if that's what the Senate desires, but I wanted to point that out as an option as well if we don't want to hash that out. Government Affairs Chair Kennedy.
Appoint a task force without postponing indefinitely? Like instead of the committee, could we just, does that make sense? Not postpone indefinitely, but instead of a committee, create a task force.
Yes.
So instead of a committee, move to a task force, not postpone.
Yes. Yes, we could do that. Correct, Vice President Willis. Chief of Staff Sabo. All right. Previous question, does anyone need a rehash on how that works? So we'll vote on previous question. If it passes, then we will take the motion to postpone indefinitely to a vote. All those in favor of previous question, please stick your hand out. All right, please put your hands down. All opposed? All right, previous question passes. We will take the motion to postpone indefinitely to a vote. This will be a voice vote. All those in favor of postponing this motion indefinitely, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Okay. Can we please just do a hand vote again? All those in favor of postponing indefinitely, please raise your hands. You made the motion. You can't vote against it.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. All those opposed to postponing indefinitely, please raise your hands. Thank you. The motion to postpone indefinitely fails. We're sorry. Yeah. All right. We are back on discussion of the amendment as it currently reads. Senator Hofer.
I move to refer amendment 24-2-A to a committee of the Senate's appointment.
Right. So this motion is debatable. So Senator Hofer for straight to debate.
Yeah, I agree with what a lot of people have said, that this is a really great notion, a great idea, but I think it needs more work. I think we can really use a lot of committee voices to work on this to make a solution that's more amenable to everyone in the room. And I saw some people over there who really wanted to talk, so I can give more time to you guys if you want.
Senator Barnett.
I would like to make a counter motion to send this to a task force.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that works. They have this, what? A friendly amendment, yes, if the maker of the motion is good with that. Okay, we'll refer this to a task force still appointed by the Senate.
Please.
Okay, we'll continue discussion on this motion. Senator Shemek.
How do we go about appointing people and like deciding the number of people that will be on that task force?
I don't know. Could we potentially, I would throw this out there, say technically appointed by the chair, but to be approved by the Senate? Would that be an acceptable form of that? Obviously, the way I would go about that is ask people who want to be on it, put up their names to this body. We could determine if it's an acceptable amount, and then the Senate could vote to approve that membership. Does that sound like an acceptable solution? Okay, we'll consider that also a friendly amendment and say that is how we would like this task force appointed by the chair to be approved by the Senate. Further discussion on this motion to refer to the task force. Vice President Bentz.
Able to form that task force tonight? Is that something?
The timeline I would propose is I would want people to reach out to me if they are interested in serving, and then within hopefully before Thanksgiving, I could get the list of people together to be approved at our next Senate meeting on December 9th formally. Senator Shaw.
Yeah, so with that, please, everyone who had, saw those holes, saw those arguments against, please, help join this task force so we can create an amendment that will be compromised towards everybody on the Senate and for the corporation of this school. So, when he's asking for volunteers, I of course will be one, but then please also become part of the team.
Further discussion on the motion to refer to a task force. Senator Shemek.
Would it be possible to guarantee that someone like from exec that knows a lot about the workings of the Senate would be for sure included in that task force? I just think it would be beneficial to have someone that knows more about the bylaws and the process. I think it'd be helpful.
Yes.
To ensure that.
Typically with task forces, myself and or Vice President Bentz serve on them. So yes, we will continue that precedent. And others, members of exec, are obviously welcome to join as well. Communications Chair Fink.
Just a question of further clarification. Is there a limit to the amount of members that can be on this task force? Or could it, in theory, be all the senators in this room? Just in theory, if we were all enthusiastic about solving this.
In theory, it could. However, since it's at the end of the day appointed by me, I would probably choose a reasonable amount of people to be approved by the Senate and hopefully a mix of opinions as well. I know that's not a solid answer, but that's how it would probably work. I would not appoint all of you, sorry. Further discussion on the motion to refer this amendment to a task force. Okay, seeing none, we will take this to a voice vote. All those in favor of referring amendment 24-2-A to a task force appointed by the chair to be approved by the Senate, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? This amendment is now referred. Thank you all for the wonderful discussion tonight. All right, we will move on to new business item A, resolution 24-9-R. Chief of Staff Sabo, would you please introduce this item?
Resolution 24-9-R. Title of resolution reads, SDSU Students Association encourages senators to attend diverse events on campus. Prime sponsor includes Diversity Liaison Garcia. Sponsors include President Peterson, Vice President Bentz, Chief of Staff Sabo, Finance Chair Peterson, Communications Chair Fink, Senators Schell, Schmeck, Peterson, and Wisser.
Would anyone request that this item be read in full? Seeing none, we'll vote on this resolution on December 9th. Moving on to new business item B, the Cafes Prexy Council Special Allocation Fund recommendation. Can I entertain a motion to approve the Finance Committee's recommendation? Chief of Staff Sabo. Chief of Staff Sabo, first right to debate.
Yeah, so we met with the Cafes Prexy Council as we do every year. They usually request some money from us to cover some of their expenses. So as the Finance Committee, we recommended to approve $2,000 to support their t-shirts. Their event is open to all students at SDSU, not just ag kids, which is why we felt it was really important to help fund this request, because it is a big source of outreach, and Prexy Council does overlook, I believe, almost all of the cafes organizations. So I felt that because of that, it was really important to help fund them.
Any further discussion on this special allocation request? Seeing none, we will take this to a roll call vote. Chief of Staff Sabo, would you please call the roll?
Senators Barnett, Brink, Derek Comfort, Dooley, Gibney, Hofer, Jensen abstains, Campson abstains, Markley, Peterson, Pulse abstains, Robbins, Schell, Schmeck, Sierra, Spear, Sternhagen, Tennant, Vasquez, Wessler, Wisser, Diversity Liaison Garcia, Communications Chair Fink, Finance Chair Peterson, Government Affairs Chair Kennecke, Chief of Staff Sabo, aye. Vice President Benz.
The ayes have it, and the Cafes Prexy Council Special Allocation Fund recommendation is approved. Moving on to topics for future discussion. Are there any topics for future discussion tonight? Vice President Benz.
Mr. Gibney brought up a good point during our debate earlier on regarding information not being shared from the executive team towards the rest of the Senate. I want to ensure all of you sitting around the table that that was not the goal of any of the discussion that we had as an executive team, and I'd like to apologize that it came across in such a way. And appreciate Mr. Sternhagen for using the Wayback Machine to find another way of finding out that information. But again, Mr. Gibney, apologies for not communicating that information. That's certainly not the goal to have any kind of secrecy within the executive team.
Apologize for my wording. Apology completely accepted.
Senator Sternhagen.
In a very similar light, this is maybe more to Dr. Willis. The IT committee and I think the parking committee as well, they are posting their minutes on Inside State, which is something that we as students don't have access to. For me personally, it's not super imperative that I have access to those minutes, but maybe something to consider in the future is ways that we could maybe put it in a place where students who are on those committees could get access to that.
Any other topics for future discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to announcements. Are there any announcements? Senator Gibney.
I had the opportunity to get a presentation from Dr. Carolyn Whittier, the Associate Vice President at Valparaiso University, this past weekend in Dallas. She brought up a lot of points about how college is kind of a minefield for our generation. As the seasons approach, I want to remind the entire Senate that seasonal depression is a very real thing. If you're around this table, you're probably in the higher achiever category, and that times of rest are dedicated to do that. So ensure that you are doing so. Spend the season with family in any way that you can, and prioritize your mental health, because the numbers aren't necessarily getting better. So I think it's important to prioritize ourselves before our various and strenuous, oftentimes, tasks. So keep with what VP Willis says, and keep a positive outlook.
Other announcements. Senator Brink.
I just want to take a second to shamelessly plug the choral program that I'm really highly involved in here at CSU. Not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, but we don't have a meeting next week. There's going to be our Christmas choral Yuletide concert. It's at 2 and 5 Sunday, December 8th, and it's about an hour and a half of some really glorious Christmas music, with some instrumental ensembles involved as well. And I bet you probably know somebody in it because I hear that Coralia has 130 women in it this semester. So yeah, if you want to come on down, your student ID should get you in for free. So come join us.
Further announcements, Chief of Staff Sabo.
Yes, so because we're a short week, no office hours. You won't be required to do your office hours this week. Yay! Thank you, Mr. Turkey, for coming on Thursday. And then I have 2 congratulations in order. One, our very own Senator Hofer got engaged. And then Senator Dooley got into med school at USC. If you see anything, say congrats.
Any other announcements tonight? Okay, I do have 2. So first of all, movie night next week. Please cast your vote for your movie before you leave this room. If you have not done so already, unless you're Grant who got kicked out of GroupMe, I have his vote. Sorry. Oh, you can tell me your vote too, Senator Markley. Our final meeting will be December 9th, and I wanted to say thank you to our Unified Council ex officios who are nearing their last meetings with us. Are there any other announcements? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Senator Markley. All those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? We are adjourned.